So thank you very much for having me today. First of all, let me congratulate SHEIKH Pakistan, and in particular Mr. Adnan and Mr. Imran for this great initiative to tell people's journeys and experiences in such a beautiful manner. I think if we look around us, we often follow personalities and icons in terms of setting benchmark for ourselves, in terms of where we want to see ourselves in the future. But what we often tend to ignore or fail to recognize is that the simple, I think the tiny glimpses of the sheer amount of rigor that has gone into making these personalities in terms of the people that they are today. And I think this is a very great initiative to tell those stories, and I congratulate your team for this initiative. Now, in terms of my own career progression, so I attended a college called Cadet College Pitaro, which is basically a nursery for armed forces of Pakistan. And at these cadet colleges, the primary aim is to train mentally, physically, intellectually, academically people to be fit for the armed forces of Pakistan. But I was always, more inclined towards the academic side, and I was very much active in the debating competitions and all. So while still being at Pitaro, I applied for Lahore University of Management Sciences, LUMS. I got into LUMS, did my undergraduation from LUMS on the basis of a scholarship. After doing my undergraduation, I worked for a year in the development sector on a WHO, World Health Organization, funded project on improving and putting in place the effective health systems in the selected sites in the city of Karachi. And afterwards, I got a DAAD Scholarship, which is a German academic exchange services scholarship, very much like the Fulbright Scholarship of the USA, to study and pursue my graduate studies, postgraduate studies in public policy and governance. Now, coming from the very rigorous training of academics in Pakistan, it was a 2 years program, but I was able to finish it in 1.5 years. And since then, for the last 7 years, almost 6.5 years, I've been associated with Transparency International Pakistan as overseeing the program operations as director of programs. Now, my work at the TI is essentially focused on the project management, project design, and project implementation. And we work, at 3 levels. At the macro level, we work to provide policy and legislative input to the federal and provincial governments and the different departments associated with the government. At the macro level, we work with different stakeholders, in particular the partner organizations, and that comes the international organizations and the local NGOs to implement the activities and the programmatic designs that we have designed. And at the meso level, our work is geared towards citizen engagement, the citizen empowerment, training people in terms of how they can use different mediums to empower themselves. So DAAD stands for German Academic Exchange Services. It's a scholarship like Fulbright Scholarship of USA. So every year DAAD Pakistan selects 3 to 4 applicants and send them to Germany to pursue postgraduate studies in public policy and governance. What is best about this program is that there are candidates from across Asia Pacific who come to Germany on the basis of this scholarship to pursue the studies of their field. So Youth Parliament basically is an initiative of PILDAT organization, and since last, I think, almost more than a decade, they have put in place this initiative called Youth Parliament, where basically they invite young leaders from across Pakistan and select them on the basis of their community level experience. I was fortunate to be elected as the first representative youth leader of opposition and successfully complete my term there, and it's based on the 2-party system, the majority party and the minority party. What is the best about this initiative is that it gives you a practical exposure into how the policy making is done, and we were also got to learn how the National Assembly and the provincial assemblies work in Pakistan. We worked very closely with the elected representatives and provided them input, and more importantly a youth perspective on various national and local issues. I think it was a conscious decision on my part. I'll tell you a funny fact. You know, when I applied for LUMS, I got admission into accounting and finance program, which is the top school of LUMS. But after my first semester, I somehow felt that this is something that I wasn't enjoying. So I brought it up with my family. I discussed with them if I could change my major, you know, and there was a lot of pushback. But I was quite decisive at that point that, you know, accounting and finance is not really my cup of tea, but I would rather go to, you know, field that was more intellectually stimulating, more gives me a perspective or deeper understanding into different issues. So I went into economics and social sciences. And after undergraduation, so it was naturally, you know, natural for me to go into the field that aligns with my undergraduation. And public policy, you know, back then in 2013 and 2014 was still a very new field. There were not many public policy, you know, graduates or postgraduates, but I saw the potential that this field had in terms of offering, I would say, rather diverse opportunities into different sectors. So yes, I would say it was a conscious decision. The best piece of advice that I have taken personally is be consistent. Always stay focused, decide a direction for yourself and stay onto it. As they say, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. So if you stay focused, there will always be a success at the end of the tunnel. The best advice that I would give, if you want to pursue a career in public policy and governance, do so if it really interests you. Because public policy and governance is a field which requires a lot of inspiration, and inspiration in terms of serving others. Because here the kind of the work, whether it relates to the policy making or the implementation side of it, it really relates to improving the daily lives of people. I think that given the nature of the work today, it is difficult to strike a balance between professional and personal life. But one of the things that I personally do is to at least make sure that I give maximum time to my family, especially to my daughter over the weekends. I try to ensure to take her to places, you know, over Saturday or Sunday, and to spend time with my family, avoiding any work commitments or avoiding any work emails. So one of the things that I do regularly after work is to make sure that I go for a walk. Though it's difficult to keep up with a routine like that, but I try to, you know, stick to that, and that gives me some kind of a relaxation. Apart from that, I also have a habit to make sure that I at least read, you know, few pages of the book that I'm reading before going to sleep. In terms of my hobbies, traveling is one of my you know, one of my key hobbies. Whenever, you know, I especially try to take annual leaves and make sure that as a family we travel, because it gives you a very different perspective on the things. Writing is something that also gives me some kind of a peace to express and write my thoughts and to be myself.